Well, hello, everybody. Hello. This is Dr. Matt Dorsey, your friendly neighborhood CHOQTOR, Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. of Acupuncture, Chinese Medicine, herbalist, nutritionist, etc., etc., etc. What is up? Hello. How's everybody doing in this pre-Christmas holiday atmosphere? See, we got all the regulars. Chakalala, you do seem to be consistently one of the first people here, so good for you for that. That's awesome. You seem to be a CHOQ mega fan, so that's very cool. We've also got Evan, Sam, Jonathan, Andy, Glow 120. Hello. How's everybody doing? What's up? What is up with you guys? Quick public service announcement. Celery juice is awesome. Something told me, so I just had a really positive experience with celery juice, which I do on a regular basis because I've been doing it for a long time. And I feel like I haven't talked about celery juice with you guys as much as I would have liked to have. I'm just curious, how many of you guys actually do celery juice? Is that a common thing? Let me know in the chat if that's something that you guys do. Yeah, no, it's amazing for all sorts of stuff: cardiovascular, immune, digestive, adrenal, cognitive, mood, reproductive, you name it. Celery juice kind of does it all. And I'm a supplement guy. Obviously, I'm all about the herbs and et cetera. But man, there is nothing that can do what celery juice can do. There's no single herb out there that does what celery juice does. I haven't found it. It's phenomenal. So I have to say, I felt just called to tell you guys about how amazing it is. I had the experience just now. You ever have that experience where your intuition, your body, whatever you want to call it, tells you, hey, that's too heavy of a meal. You don't need that. And you're like, well, I'm going to eat it anyway, right? Because I want it emotionally, or because in my case, I had some food that was leftovers and it was going to go bad. And I told myself, well, you don't want to waste your leftovers, right? You don't want to waste food. So I ate it anyway, and it was quality food. It's not like there's anything wrong with the food, but my body told me, that's too heavy. You don't need that much food right now, right? It was a fairly large dinner. It was like salmon and a bunch of vegetables and some rice, which I tend to eat fairly often. And I did it, and I felt heavy and tired afterwards. And my body was like, yeah, dude, like I told you that was too heavy. We needed something light just now. We didn't need a full heavy meal, and you ate it anyway. So I was thinking, well, crap, I've got to do the show tonight. It's going to be double prize day. I'm going to be going a little bit longer. I don't want to be tired for you guys. And so I drank about 16, 20 ounces of celery juice, probably 16 ounces of celery juice. And yeah, it's awesome. It's like celery juice for me. I mean, it does a lot of things, but sometimes if you eat something that you shouldn't have, right? Either too much of the food or the wrong kind of food, it's like a shower for your GI tract. It gets in there and it just sort of like restores balance, and you have this sort of like feeling of cleanliness, gets everything moving again. It's really nice. But if you want to do celery juice the right way, and I have to give credit to Anthony William, the medical medium, because he is the celery juice man, right? So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. He is the guy who popularizes information. But if you want to do celery juice right on a daily basis, this is how you typically want to do it. You want to get up and you want to, have your full glass of water with lemon juice if you like, which is great. And then have your celery juice right after that, about 10 minutes later or so, right? And at that point, so you want to drink, the standard amount is 16 ounces up to 32 ounces, but you do need to work up to that if you're not used to it. Some people need to start as low as 4, but you have your celery juice. Never mix anything else in with it. This is very important. You want it to be a pure medicine. Celery is a medicine. So you want the celery juice to be completely undiluted. Never mix it with anything, not even lemon juice. Pure celery juice, empty stomach. All you've had is water. And then set a timer on your phone or wherever, on your kitchen oven, wherever you got to set your timer for 20 minutes, and don't put anything else in your stomach for 20 minutes, whether it's liquid or solid. And if you do that, you can see tremendous results. I will tell you, because I've been on and off of celery juice for many years now, probably 4 or 5 years. And when I'm on it, I'm like a different person, like really, like it's like, yeah, I mean, celery juice is like its own awesome CHOQ product just in and of itself, But yeah, celery juice is fantastic. I have found that it gives me a lot of mental clarity. The only thing is that if you do have issues where you have a really sensitive GI tract or you're dealing with some issues in the GI tract, it can be very supportive, but you have to go slower. You have to be careful. So let's say, for example, you got a lot going on. Your stomach is, your gut is off, your microbiome's off. You want to start with somewhere like 4 ounces for the first even like week or so, and then go up to like 8 to 10 ounces. 12 ounces, et cetera, just little by little, you want to increase, and then you want to get up to 16 ounces or more, right? But so you're going to go real slow if you have a lot going on, you have a sensitive system, because it's very powerful medicine. It can throw you into a detox reaction. Sometimes you can get, when it's restoring balance in your microbiome, that can be a little bit hairy, sometimes when you got critters in there and it's like you're kicking a hornet's nest whenever you start throwing stuff in there that strengthens immunity. So, but anyway, something told me, I just got like this kind of intuition. It was like, well, the reason that you did this to yourself and you ate this food that was too much for you and you felt weird, and then you undid it with the celery juice. The reason that you did that was so you could share your experience with the CHOQ Nation here and let everybody know that, yeah, celery juice is the bomb. And you guys are always welcome to ask me anything about it for pro tips. But I will tell you, as someone who's been using it personally and who's someone who's used it with countless clients in my private practice, celery juice is freaking amazing, dude. And there isn't any one herb out there that does what celery juice does. There really isn't. And, that's coming from me, like the herb guy, you know what I mean? So highly, highly recommended. Just remember those quick little warnings. And, you can make celery juice and you can mix it with, carrot, apple, whatever you want. And that's cool too, but it's not the same as doing straight celery juice. That is the bomb. So yeah, just had to throw that out there as a quick little reminder. You guys should all check out that celery juice if you can. All right, what else we got here? Andy Z Girl says straight celery juice is a miracle. Yeah, it really is. And just get on it. It's life-changing. The one thing that does really suck about celery is that when you have to go to 3 grocery stores in a row because the first 2 are either out or they have that really crappy celery, around these parts, most places sell it by the bunch, not by the pound. Although I think Natural Grocers sells it by the pound. So if you have a Natural Grocers around, that's actually the best way to get it. But Natural Grocers is a little bit farther away from me. So I usually go to Whole Foods or Sprouts is what we have, it's really close. Natural Grocers is not that far. But anyway, for
I can help you find a place when I know you.
That's weird. Siri just thought I was trying to go to Whole Foods. Anyway, that's bizarre. But anyway, so long story short, though, Siri's butting in. But yeah, sometimes you'll go and they sell it by the bunch, so it's like $2.50 a bunch, and you'll find nothing but these tiny little bunches that hardly make any juice, and that is super annoying. So one thing to watch out for, if you can find a place that charges by the pound and not by the bunch, you don't have to worry about the massive fluctuations in sizes of bunches. Because literally you'll go to one place and they'll be selling a bunch that's this big, this big for $2.50. Another place will be selling this big, twice the size, twice the amount of juice for the same amount of money. So yeah, but yeah, Siri, you need to chill out. Hey Siri, you need to chill out, dude.
Is there something else I can help with?
Nope. That's funny. All right. Anyway, yeah, Siri's always eavesdropping on us. Speaking of technology, did you guys see the new blog that I dropped on the Matrix and the metaverse last night? So check this out. Check out the new blog. So yes, I am back to blogging now. That's going to be a regular thing. I probably don't have enough time to do a whole blog per week, but I'm going to shoot for 2 blogs per month. So a blog every other week. And if I can do more than that, I will. But my goal is to do 2 blogs a month. So yes, I'm back in business. Yeah, so Matrix 4 came out last night. I wanted to do a whole Matrix themed blog. By the way, I'm really proud of how the custom graphic came out on this blog. So click on that link and look at that graphic really fast there. I'm actually a amateur graphic designer, pretty good with one though. So I made that graphic myself of the red pill and the blue pill. And JJ says, glad you put it on Telegram. Yeah, for sure. I'll announce all my blogs on Telegram too, just so you guys can check them out. But yeah, I had a lot of fun writing this. The blogs I'm going to write, they might not be quite as long and super intense as the ones before, because the ones before I was taking many hours to write, and they had tons of references. These are going to be a little bit shorter and more to the point, but hey, that's what people like anyway. But I love writing. Writing is a big part of my life. I also am a fiction writer. It's one of my hobbies. Maybe I've told you guys that I'm working on a science fiction book. So one of the reasons that I'm so interested in all this stuff, right, is because, I'm coming at it from this perspective of somebody who's actually writing a book that takes place in the future and deals with technology. But this blog I thought it was a really good way to make my comeback as a blogger for CHOQ. One of the points that I make in here is a point that I've told you guys about before, which is talking about that book called Snow Crash, which is the origin, of course, of the term metaverse, right? And I make the point, I'll just read from the blog really fast here. As we all know, 2 months ago, Zuckerberg announced that Facebook was changing its name to Meta and intends on putting enormous effort into building a massive virtual reality world called the metaverse. What hardly anybody seems to know, though, is that Facebook's new name, Meta, is inherently dystopian, owing to its specific literary origin. You see, metaverse is a term that was coined by Neil Stephenson in his classic dystopian cyberpunk novel, Snow Crash, and is thus inseparable from the bleak, near-apocalyptic context from which it sprang. In the book, the main character, comically named Hero Protagonist, that's actually the name of the main character, lives in a world that's largely lawless, brutal, and cruel. He lives in a dilapidated, essentially unfurnished warehouse, and like most everyone else in this fictional world, regularly enters the metaverse in order to escape the unbridled savagery and ugliness of the default world, a world in which countries and federal governments have been rendered vestigial and powerless, and various mafia-like organizations operate with impunity. What does all this say about the current era that the world's largest social media company, now with billions of users, has used such a loaded term to name itself? And then that's when I also talk about the fact that if you go to the Wikipedia article on metaverse, it does mention Snow Crash, the origin of the term, but at no point does it even say that Snow Crash is a dystopia. Pretty funny. And I go on to talk a little bit about the fact that the pandemic has been leveraged by big tech, as we all know, to penetrate more deeply into our lives. I did write a little mini blog on that one a while back. You guys can check out right here if you haven't, called a no touch future: how big tech is leveraging the pandemic. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Stay Human number 2, episode 2. I'm sure since you guys are all regulars, you already know about this, but of course, I'm going to be promoting the heck out of it since it is the upcoming thing, January 21st. Friday, January 21st, around about 5:00 p.m. Central. That second link, that one I just sent there, that's Stay Human episode 2. Go ahead and hit that one up, set a reminder, hit the like button if you can. That would be dope, and share it with your friends. If you liked Stay Human episode 1, you will like this one probably even more. And my task is to not repeat myself too much, summarize a little bit from the first, but come up with another 90 minutes to 2 hours of brand new content. And that'll be a lot of fun because, I love doing this stuff. And so all the blogs that I'm doing for my next, it's actually going to be a series. The next 2 or 3 blogs are all going to be on the same topic of technology and humanity's simultaneous ascent and descent. So really right now we have an ascent and a descent. We have some of us, like I said, between two worlds last time, when we did our unplugged last Friday, some of us are between two worlds where the new world is the one of higher levels of awareness. And some of us are between two worlds where some of us are going to sleep and becoming more like technology zombies. And I don't say that to insult the people who are wanting to merge with technology, because they're people and they deserve love and respect, obviously. So don't mean to insult them too much. But, in a sense, I think technology zombie is a fairly appropriate term. And man, I did watch Matrix 4 last night. There's a ton of spoilers I could give you guys, but I won't do that. I'll tell you a few things about Matrix 4 that are not spoilers. Number one, it's nothing like the first 3 Matrix movies. So that doesn't give you any content to spoil, but it's very different. Very, very different. Number two, it's kind of strange. It's a bit of a mixed bag. The production value may not be really as high as the first ones, and that's some people are complaining about that. But if you can get past that, I will say that there are a few moments in the movie when somebody delivers a few lines where, oh man, it's almost like the whole purpose of the movie was so they could deliver certain lines in there that are referring to things that are actually happening right now. So the people who made the movie, the people in charge, I do believe fully understand, have a good grasp of what's happening right now. That's my assumption on the planet. And I do believe that they are, some of them are sort of, doing this like I see you kind of thing. I will tell you that randomly, this also is not really a spoiler, but randomly, so a character gets thrown into a random, jail cell kind of a thing, right? I won't tell you which characters. I won't spoil anything. This is in the real world. This happens. Character gets thrown into like a cell. And this is an Easter egg because this has nothing to do with the plot at all. And you can only see it for a split second, but we went back and watched it and took a screenshot. I'll have to share it with you guys. And on the outside of the cell, it said, danger, high risk of infection, quarantine. And there was nothing in the plot that had anything to do with a virus or a pandemic, quarantine, or anything. So clearly the people who made The Matrix put that in there, barely visible for like 1 or 2 seconds. I caught it really fast and we had to go back later and rewind it and catch it. So again, if you've already seen The Matrix, you know what I'm talking about. There's only one scene in The Matrix where a character gets put into a jail cell. And if you go back, if you've got it at home and you go back and look at what the front of the door says on the outside of the cell, that part of the door. And it says, zoom in, you'll see it says quarantine, something, danger, high risk of infection. So that to me was also a big nod, right? Because there is no reason, that has nothing to do with the plot, that does not advance the plot forward. It's not linked to anything that happened in the movie. There is no, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting. Really interesting. Yeah. But yeah, Matrix 4, very interesting. Definitely worth watching. Not perfect. Obviously lower production value. And that was kind of annoying, to be frank. From a graphic standpoint, the first 3 look way, way better. The overall acting in the first 3 was probably better, but some of the acting was decent here. Keanu's always awesome in his own unique Keanu way. He's got his own kind of flair, I heard Keanu's actually a really cool guy, supposedly. He's not one of these Hollywood weirdos who's like a, pervert and, and like he's like a real chill down to earth guy, supposedly. Anyway, yeah. So definitely, with movies like this, I'll just tell you, if there's certain parts about The Matrix 4 that do annoy you, just do your best to get past those annoying parts. I did. There's some parts where I'm like, this part's not that great, but there's enough cool stuff in there, and the message is still good. There is a message for people like us, So yeah, I think Keanu. I think if Keanu were here right now, which would be pretty cool, because we'd probably have more than 13 viewers if he were. But if Keanu were right here on the show, I'm pretty sure that he, if he was permitted to speak freely, then I'm sure he would probably agree with a lot of the stuff that you and I, that CHOQ Nation tends to dig. You know what I mean? So yeah. JJ's asking about Orson Scott Card. That's a name that's come up a bunch of times, but JJ, unfortunately, I have not. So I should take a screenshot of that so that I can come back and remember to check out some of this stuff later. But I have heard good things about Orson Scott Card. So JJ, if you'd like to tell me more about his stuff, definitely do that. Right now, I'm reading a Philip K. Dick book called Ubik, if anyone's ever read that one. I love Philip K. Dick. I've only read a couple of his books, so I'm definitely wanting to read more of his stuff. But his stuff is awesome. All right, let's see here. What else we got? Also, Chocolala, thank you very much for your kind comments at the very beginning. I didn't read through all of them until just now, and I appreciate you too. So thank you for being so kind. Let's see here. What else we get? What else we got here? All right. Somebody's saying, Andy, were you saying that celery juice is energizing? It's never kept me awake personally. It tends to be kind of adaptogenic where it just gives you whatever you need, like ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, you can take it early in the day and it'll give you energy. Take it late in the day, it helps you relax. Celery juice seems to be pretty adaptogenic to me. It's never kept me awake personally. Yeah. What else we got here? So Evan's asking what kind of juicer I have. Evan, as you mentioned, cold press juicer. So I have a masticating juicer. I use the Omega masticating juicer. That is a good one. Yes. And Evan says, love the sacred geometry in the background. Yeah. So if you guys go and check out the graphic that's on that latest blog, the graphic at the top there, look at it right now. So have you noticed, look at the metaverse logo. Notice that the metaverse logo kind of looks to me like what would happen if you took the actual infinity symbol, also known as the lemniscate, infinity symbol, and then you sort of like warped it and twisted it, right? Meta is like a twisted, warped infinity symbol. And so noticing that, what I did with this graphic here is that the blue pill has the Meta logo on it, right? And then the red pill has the actual real infinity logo on it. So it's almost like blue pill is like we took, reality, the infinite reality of what actually exists, and we sort of like warped it, right? We created our own weird, bizarro universe controlled by us so we can control you. But yeah, no, I'm really happy how that graphic worked out. And the whole metaphor, a movie has really been massively successful whenever it actually creates new terms, a movie or a book, when it creates new terms that get used in reality. And how often do we hear the term getting red pilled? It happens all the time. You know what I mean? You'll see a YouTube where it's like so-and-so, Jordan Peterson, red pilling so-and-so or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool that the Matrix has been popular enough and influential enough that it's able to actually give us new terms, And of course, the idea of the Matrix itself, that is such a pervasive idea now, right? And by the way, at the end of this blog here, I do hint about the second installation, right? Which is basically, second installation is that whole idea I was talking about when I was going off on my crazy rants last week on our unplugged, unrecorded session or unstored session about there being multiple different matrices and multiple layers of this thing. You know what I mean? Just when you think you've taken the ultimate red pill and you're awake to everything, you look up and you realize there's this next barrier above you and there's another matrix to wake up out of, And I've always wondered, and this didn't happen in Matrix 4, but I've always wondered, what if in one of these Matrix movies, what if we realized that there was no real world and everything we had seen was just more Matrix and we still hadn't seen the real world? Wouldn't that be the ultimate mind F? You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine, like, what if this whole time when we thought that there was the Matrix and then there was Zion, the real world, and the apocalyptic Earth, what if that was an illusion too? And what if that was just more Matrix, right? Right. That would be a bit crazy making, but you know what? It could be, right? We all know the cautionary tale of like, you've got a young hip artist who's really captured the zeitgeist, who's pointing out things that are wrong with culture. And then that artist gets popular, right? Maybe it's a rapper, maybe it's a singer, who knows, right? It could be like who knows, whatever it could be, right? Somebody who's creative and is like really got their finger on the pulse and they're pointing out things that are wrong with society and they're doing it in an artistic way and the young people are digging it. And then what happens then, right? Well, that person's popular. That person gets approached by a big record label, right? That's also probably tied into Hollywood and all the nefarious, weird things that happen in Hollywood, all the weird sexual, uncool, perverted stuff from Hollywood and their links to the powers that be, as we all know, right? And then next thing you know, they're like, well, yeah, okay, cool. Like these going to be rich and famous. I'm going to be able to spread my artistic message to the world. And then little by little, that message that was actually originally something that was meant to wake people up and to point out things that were wrong, then just got dumbed down and dumbed down and dumbed down. And the artist probably gets more and more hooked on pills and, and the sex, drugs, and rock and roll life and misses the point more and more. And then what happens, right? Then at that point, the Matrix has successfully taken something that was originally anti-Matrix and incorporated it into itself, merged with it, and then produced a fake red pill. There are fake red pills out there, guys. There are, you know what I mean? And if you think about it, really all the different cults that are out there, all the different weird cult-like things. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of them, they're promising a red pill-like experience. We're going to wake you up to ultimate reality, but it's not. It's another level of the Matrix. It's a fake red pill. You know what I mean? I think a lot of these different weird cults, I won't name specific cults, but I'll just say cults in general and like really, really fundamentalist style thinking, whatever it is from whatever religion, just the really fundamentalist type aspects of religion where people are like, I'm the only one who's right. Everyone else in the world is completely wrong, right? We have all the right answers. We know everything. We have to swear total allegiance to us. That kind of thinking is like, it's fake red pill. That's what it really is. It's a red pill placebo. Someone took a red capsule and what did they do? They put a bunch of sugar in it instead of an actual active compound. That's what it is. It's a fake red pill, right? Pseudo red pill, placebo red pill, right? Think about it, right? We're like, we have the ultimate truth for you. We're going to wake you up. Like we acknowledge the Matrix exists. There's all these illusions, right? We're going to wake you up out of the Matrix. Take this special red pill, right? And you take it and you're like, well, I am feeling something like, because, like I'm being told I'm supposed to feel something. And, maybe they do put a little something in there to like, make you feel different or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not a real red pill experience. You're not actually being woken up from the Matrix. You just think you are. What you're doing is you're just changing to you're just rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic. You're changing to a different kind of Matrix. And, with a movie like The Matrix, the metaphor penetrates so deeply into so many different arenas. Many different people will read The Matrix differently. If you're a very, very strongly political person, but you don't care about spiritual things, you'll think that The Matrix is only about politics. It's 100% political, If you're, if you're a person who only is like really, really into technology, you'll take The Matrix more literally and you'll be like, oh, this is about a literal possible future where this could happen. There's so many different ways of interpreting The Matrix. And I guess that's the kind of point, though, is that The Matrix is something that actually responds dynamically to you and is always going to offer you some kind of fake red pill that's actually a blue pill in disguise. So, yeah. And no, I'm not talking about any one particular religious group. I would never single out a religious group on here. So we never single out Christians or Jews or anybody, never would single out a religious group. It's not about that. It's not about religious or not religious. It's about, do you have a fundamentalist style of thinking where you think that you have every single last answer of how reality exists and anybody else who's not in your special group is completely wrong and bad and they're evil? That's like a cult way of thinking. So it's not about which religion you're a part of or not. It has nothing to do with that. And of course, I would never insult anyone's religion. Whatever you vibe with is totally cool. If you like the Christian thing or if you're a Buddhist or whatever you are, Muslim, whatever, it's all about you. But it's more about the style of how somebody practices their religion. You know what I mean? Even science, for example, science is a religion. There are fundamentalist scientists out there. You know what I mean? And when we're talking about this thing, the V, right, we know that there's a lot of cult-like fundamentalist thinking among scientists who are 100% pro this 100% of the time, right? Scientists and doctors who have this fundamentalist style of thinking that this particular medical intervention can do no harm when the facts are obviously opposite, right? So science itself is a kind of religion. It's a materialist religion, and it can be just as irrational, fundamentalist, divisive, and dogmatic as any other religion. So science is its own religion, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's my rant on that. Let's see if we got any cool questions or comments here. What do we got here? All righty. Let's see here. Evan, thanks for the comment on the graphic, though. Glad you dig the graphic, man. I spent some serious time on that graphic there. Whenever I write these blogs, I always want to make a cool graphic to go with them, just so it looks really nice. Evan says, ironic, I know you need a what pass to watch The Matrix. Yeah, I mean, obviously not where I am, but that meme was super funny, right? It's like, how much of an NPC can you possibly be if you showing your Vax passport to watch The Matrix? All right, let's see here. All right. Officially have 1 year consuming CHOQ products and love it. Awesome, Jonathan. Very cool. Good. Glad to hear that, man. All right. Matrix writers complained about Red Pill being kidnapped by right wingers. Yeah, I mean, and if you think that the Matrix is only about politics, then you're completely missing the point. Of course, that's a factor, right? Politics plays into all this stuff. But if you think that all the Matrix is about politics, that's utterly just stupid. Like Matrix encompasses things so much deeper than just politics, psychology, philosophy, religion, sociology, science, metaphysics, ethics. Matrix encompasses so many things. It can be something that can be an entry point for discussing a bunch of different areas of human experience. And yeah, again, some people are just really geared toward thinking a certain way, and they're going to interpret everything that lens. But unfortunately, you're missing 90% of the picture if you think the Matrix is only about politics. That's just silly. All right, what else we got here? Orson calls those wall folds. He talks to about 11 to 12 different folds. JJ, tell me more about these wall folds. I've never heard of this before. What are wall folds? Are you referring to the different layers of the matrix, like the onion I was talking about? That sounds like a really interesting concept. All right, here, let's see. Hello, BMez. Hello from down under, or hello to you in down under. You've been pressured to take the V. Otherwise, you may lose your job. I'm very sorry to hear that. That really sucks. That really sucks. Yeah. But I'm glad that you're enjoying our products, and hopefully they're helping you stay not as stressed out under such a difficult situation. Yeah. Shamsul asks, is virology pseudoscience? And no, that it is not. So, and again, I won't talk too much about, I won't use the C word too much, talk directly about the actual, virus du jour, but just talking scientifically about virology for a moment, without me talking about recommending treatments or anything like that, just on a purely scientific and philosophical level, your question is interesting. Is virology pseudoscience? Absolutely not. Anything that ends with ology, except for maybe Scientology, which is a cult. But yeah, anything that ends in ology is potentially a legitimate science. I mean, really, but something like virology in principle is absolutely a real science. The thing is, though, that when we use the term pseudoscience, what that suggests is that real scientific rigor is not happening, right? So, for example, if you had a group that got together and they had a foregone conclusion that they were just trying to find, such as this medical treatment definitely works for this virus, right? If that was their conclusion, remember, this is all completely hypothetical. It has nothing to do with reality, nothing at all. And but yeah, let's just say theoretically, if a group of scientists got together and they said, okay, we're going to create a study, and we need the study to show that this particular thing does this thing to this virus, right? And then we're going to make sure that no matter what happens, that's how the study comes out. That is pseudoscience, absolutely, because real science is we're going to create an experiment. We're going to use great experimental design. We're going to be completely honest, and we're going to see what the data shows after the experiment, and we're going to let the chips fall where we may. We're going to be transparent. We're going to show what happens, and we're going to design an experiment for the actual real purpose of discovering real data, no matter what that data is, if it supports or does not support our hypothesis, that's real science. If you create a study as a piece of propaganda to show something that you need to show in order to make money or have power, that is pseudoscience. And it doesn't matter what the field is. If the field is virology, if the field is psychology, if the field is psychiatry, whatever the field is, any field, any scientific or medical field, if you decide the the conclusion of the study first, it's more than pseudoscience. It's just literally fraud pretty much. But there are ways to massage data. There are ways to sort of like reinterpret the numbers that aren't completely fraud. There's weird gray areas in here where you can sort of like do a study and you can phrase the data in a certain way when you're talking about it where it sounds more impressive than it is. By the way, real quick, if anyone would not mind, if anyone hasn't hit the like button yet, if you wouldn't mind just hitting that really fast, every one of those does help us quite a bit. See a few folks who are watching right now. I see that maybe we got some room for a few people to hit the like button. Every one of those does help. And so I do super appreciate it. If it's not too much trouble, that would be fantastic. And thank you so much. I do see a couple people did hit that like button there. Sorry to be annoying, but it's how you play the game. I always apologize after the fact because I hate being that guy, but I got to be that guy. But anyway, long story short, so here's a great example. Do you guys know the difference between relative risk and absolute risk? Raise your hand. Turn this to classroom. Raise your hand if you know the difference between relative risk and absolute risk. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And I would assume that maybe a couple of y'all do, but probably a lot of you guys don't. I'm going to blow your mind here in a second for those of you guys who don't know the difference between these two. This is a way that you can do without actually committing fraud. You can make it seem like the results of your experiment are much better than they actually are. And it's totally legal. It's not fraud. But this goes along the lines with science as propaganda tool versus science as real science. So again, Shamsul, I love your question. Is virology pseudoscience? And again, like I said, depends on the virologist doing the study. If they're doing real science and they're actually being honest and they're letting the chips fall where they may, then it's real science. If, for example, a group of virologists gets together, and again, like I said, they have a foregone conclusion, then it's pseudoscience, right? And extreme profit and power motivations have a way of really screwing up scientific rigor. But yeah, so here's the difference, guys. Check this out. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of mathematical explanation, but it's fairly simple. So let's say that you have a study where you give somebody a certain experimental substance, right? And the people who didn't get the substance had a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting this disease. And let's say the people who did get the substance had let's say this, make it a little bit easier mathematically. We'll make it easier. A 2 in 100 chance if you don't take the intervention and a 1 in 100 chance if you do. So meaning that if you don't do anything, you don't take any kind of meds or whatever it is, it's a 2% chance of getting this problem, whatever we'll call it, versus if you do take the meds, it's a 1% chance. So in both cases, it's very, very low risk. 2% is pretty low. 1% also very low. So the absolute risk reduction is only 1%, from 2% to 1%. But if you're a company who made this thing and you're trying to sell it to people, you're not going to say it reduces your risk of getting this thing by 1%. You're not going to say that. What are you going to say? Relative risk reduction calculates it according to this. 1% is half of 2%. Therefore, it is a 50% reduction. Doesn't that sound a lot better? On the one hand, so we have the same numbers, the same data. On the one hand, it's a 1%. On the other hand, it's a 50%. So the effect size you perceive as 50 times larger. Again, let me just repeat myself to make sure you guys all get this. So, and this is all theoretical, remember. But so a 2 in 100 chance over here if you do nothing, a 1 in 100 chance over here if you take the intervention, whatever it is, So literally a 1% absolute reduction, but a 50% relative reduction. So relative reduction, although it makes sense logically and mathematically, what's actually happening here is that it completely ignores how rare the problem is in the first place. So you can have this issue that's already exceedingly rare where the chances of you having problems are so low, right? And then, it looks like it's like the best thing since sliced bread. 50%, wow, that's cutting my risk in half. Well, it is cutting your risk in half, but your risk was only 2% in the first place. And yes, drug companies do this all the time. They are notorious for doing this. So, but if you want to sound super smart, next time you're talking to some friends or chatting online or whatever, if someone says that a certain thing reduces something by a certain percent, then you should say, is that absolute or relative risk reduction? And you will sound like the smartest person ever. And now you are more informed and better able to equip yourself against different forms of scientific tomfoolery, we'll just say, to use a nice term. Let's see. All right. But yeah, thank you for the great question, Shamsul. That's great. I think also you guys need to just, I'm always happy to share perspectives on science and philosophy and what makes good science and not good science, And really objectivity is the name of the game when it comes to science, but humans are not objective. As much as we want to think of ourselves as objective, we're not. There's profit motive, there's belief systems, there's, what do you call it? All sorts of different ways. Confirmation bias, where we only see what we want to see, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? Evan has the word science here, but with a $sign for the S. I love that. Yep, it's true. It's true. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your limitations not having the V there, BMez. That really sucks, man. That's no good. That's no good. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that there's some folks who are just getting the hell out of that entire country because it's gotten so Orwellian over there. I saw this one story of this lady who had to be in one of their camps for a couple of weeks. And even though she tested negative a bunch of times, they still wouldn't let her leave. They were like punching her for lying about something or something. I don't know, it was crazy. So Danny says, hey, Dr. Matt, you should do a podcast with Dave Asprey. Sure. That could be cool. Dave's an interesting guy. I'm not always the biggest fan of his stuff. Some of it I really like. Some of it I'm not into. He can be a bit uppity in my opinion, but I think he might have chilled out in his latter years, so he's not quite as intense as he used to be. But yeah, that would be cool. Maybe I'll wait to chat one day. I don't know if I'm big enough to where it'll be worth Dave's time, but give it a couple of years. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. What website do you guys use to watch movies online? Netflix. I don't know. Amazon. Nothing special there. I don't have anything special in that one. Viruses, germ theory talk, terrain theory is better. Well, Jimmy Jack, and it's not exactly one or the other. That's the thing, is that the germ theory and terrain theory are not opposites. They are complementary models that work together. So if you only emphasize the pathogen, or if you only emphasize the terrain, you're wrong. It's both. It's an overlapping. Imagine a Venn diagram right here, right? So you don't pick one or the other. That's just ridiculous. But the thing is that terrain has been so de-emphasized by the philosophically broken conventional medicine, MIC medicine, Rockefeller medicine model that, yes, the tendency is to springboard back over and say it's all about the terrain, right? Which is true to some extent. But terrain theory, you can take an incredibly healthy person and you can inject that person with a very, very nasty pathogen like anthrax. I don't care how healthy that person is. I don't care how good their terrain is. They're going to have problems. Period. End of story. That's just a fact, right? So terrain theory breaks down at a certain point. It's not 100% terrain. But yes, absolutely. Terrain theory, very important. And we need that as a counterbalance, because right now we're being told to believe that the terrain is meaningless, right? That having good health doesn't do anything for us in terms of, helping us with certain issues. And that's utterly ridiculous. And terrain theory is great because it's much more empowering. And it is based in a lot of very important facts about how important it is to have robust overall health, But yeah, again, like if you take the terrain theory thing to an extreme, then you've just become as imbalanced and extreme and ridiculous as the opposite. So a lot of the time, the truth is not found in extremes. It's found in a synthesis of two opposites. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a fun little rant on that, though. Yeah. All right. But yeah, Shamsul, if you're referring to specific things, and I can't get too much into detail on, it is quite possible that perhaps some of the groups that you might be referring to may be practicing a form of pseudoscience or fraud. Absolutely. That certainly could be possible. But you can't just, again, you don't want to paint with such a wide brush and say that an entire field is pseudoscience. That would be probably inaccurate, I would say. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. A ship is sent to other planet from Earth with sleeping people and an AI fellow to take care of things, somehow split into 11 different ships, people and AIs, they set up different life forms. JJ, sounds very interesting. Which book is that again? Could you tell me the name of that book? It sounds cool. All right, let's see here. What else we got? Somebody's asking about the OMI. I might be going slightly into territory I can't talk too much about. The omocrystal. We'll just call it the omocrystal. I'm gonna call it the omocrystal. So somebody's asking about a CHOQ stack for relaxation. Mohammed, great question. So yeah, I guess we are here on CHOQ Nation, so I guess we could talk about CHOQ products once in a while, right? So yeah, real quick, asking about relaxation. So a lot of our products tend to be on the more energizing side. Ashwagandha is a paradox because it is one of those adaptogens that truly is completely bidirectional in terms of energy levels. So I'm trying to see if the autofocus is always wonky. But anyway, ashwagandha, sorry, it's blurry here. It is essentially very, very adaptable. So if you take ashwagandha, it can both help you rest. Actually, I want to take one right now. I haven't had one today. It can both help you rest and give you better energy. So ashwagandha, we do recommend you take this one at night because it is good for cortisol levels and can help you rest better. But it's not like it's going to knock you out the same way that like a valerian root would or something like that, or passion flower. Yeah, ashwagandha, great for calming. A lot of our stuff, though, is not going to be as calming. It's going to be more energizing. But at the same time, adaptogens, they tend to, because of their ability to regulate stress hormones, tend to overall help your system rest a bit better. So if you get on a protocol where you're doing like some shilajit, action, ashwagandha, tonkat during the day, that very well could also help you rest better at night. We do have, I think there is some research on this tonkat to enhance sleep as well. Yeah. And again, the way that it's supporting sleep is not necessarily by knocking you out so much as it is by just helping to regulate the relationship between your brains and your stress hormone secreting adrenal glands, so that when it is time to sleep, your stress hormones aren't spiking as much. But yes, the single most common thing we have is ashwagandha. A lot of people do use it for that purpose. Yeah, ashwagandha, like I said, for a lot of people, ashwagandha, if somebody hasn't taken a lot of different herbs and they want to start with just one thing that's going to support them in a bunch of different ways, ashwagandha is a great place to start for that. Yeah. All right. So I think it's time to give away product number 1 here, everybody. Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Let me bust out my timer, my random number generator. Okay, and it is double prize day. So product number 1 is 2 of any CHOQ product. The timer has begun. Get your 2-digit number in right now in the chat, please. Get it in there as quick as you can. Make sure you don't get cut off. You have 45 seconds now to get your number into the chat. And if it's your first time, just know it must be a 2-digit number, and it must be, well, it doesn't have to be 2 digits, sorry. It has to be between 1 and 100, and it needs to be one entry only. One entry only, everyone. So if anyone does multiple entries, you will be disqualified. Just FYI. Yes, but yeah, who's feeling lucky? Who's taking their Shilajit today, I wonder? You got 10 seconds, everybody. Better hurry up. 5, 4, 3, and done. All right, cool. So the number was 13. Lucky number 13 or unlucky, depending on your definition. Is Andy the winner? Andy has 14. Andy, I believe you are our official winner. Great job. And you know what's really hilarious is I said, has anyone taken their Shilajit? Andy said, I have. And maybe that Shilajit's making you psychic, Andy. I don't know. But great job. Congratulations, Andy. You won 2 of any CHOQ product. And let me just inform our wonderful customer service ladies that you are the first winner of Double Prize Day today. Everybody stick around for Double Prize giveaway number 2 in just a little bit here. Let's see here. Okay, so do customer service. Double Prize Day winners. Number 1, Andy. 2 of any CHOQ product. You know what? We're going to do, for the prize number 2, we're going to do something different because we're running out of t-shirts. So I think I'm going to stop giving away t-shirts for a little while, by the way, guys. But yeah, I think prize number 2 will be, it'll be 1 cacao beans and then 1 of any CHOQ product. That'll be prize number 2. So stick around for prize number 2. That will be coming out in just a little bit here. I might do a little bit less than usual today, guys, because I do have some, I'm a bit of a procrastinator. I do have some stuff I need to do in terms of, ye old last minute Christmas shopping and preparation. Also, sometimes I like to make things for Christmas, and I do this thing. I don't know, do y'all have a thing where a while back, my family, many years ago, we did this tradition where you were only allowed to spend a very small amount of money because we got sick of Christmas being too commercial and too much pressure to spend tons of money. And we made it very, very simple, and we encourage people to make presents, you know. And we're not doing that anymore. That was a tradition for a while, but I like to make interesting, thoughtful presents sometimes. So like I made this like piece of art for my sister one time, and I think I wrote a poem for my mom, like things like that. So I haven't done any cool creative stuff for Christmas this time around yet. And, like I said, I'm a hardcore procrastinator, but I work well under last minute pressure. And yeah, I kind of want to I want to spend some time tonight and tomorrow seeing if I can make anything cool for my, my sister there. But yeah, some of the coolest gifts are the ones that you actually make. Obviously I bought stuff too, but it's cool to make presents. Obviously I'm going to be giving away a ton of CHOQ. I'm hoping my shipment comes in. It was supposed to come in today, but I'm getting a little shipment of CHOQ in. So clearly I'll be giving away a bunch of Shilajits, a bunch of action. My mom loves action. She's super into this stuff. Definitely be giving some armor away. 'Tis the season to tonify thy immune system. And I'll probably be giving some ashwagandha away for sure. But yeah, so I've got some CHOQ products on their way. Hopefully they'll get here in time where I can wrap those up, give those as presents too. So hope you guys took advantage of all those awesome CHOQ sales that happened during Thanksgiving, so you can give some CHOQ to loved ones too. Real quick, I rarely have to do this, but I do need to use the restroom really fast, guys. I apologize. I'll be right back though. So talk amongst yourselves. Throw me some good questions. I'll be right back. Right. Well, I'm glad to see we didn't lose too many folks. Looks like we got just as many, if not more. Thanks for waiting, everybody. That happens rarely, but once in a while. Just got to do it, especially on these longer transmissions. Mark says I do paintings as gifts. That's awesome. Oh, we got a question about intermittent fasting here. Whoo, intermittent fasting. That's a complex one, man. So here's the thing about intermittent fasting. It's a mixed bag and does have some cool properties for sure. Could definitely help. It's not for everyone. If you are the kind of person, this is a very important little public service announcement about intermittent fasting. Or if you're the kind of person who has unstable blood sugar, who has anxiety, trauma, things like that, where you got a lot of your nervous system's a little bit unstable. Intermittent fasting actually could be the worst possible thing you could do for yourself, because when you go for longer periods without eating, that tends to push up stress hormones, because you have this blood sugar thermostat mechanism where once your blood sugar goes a little bit lower when you don't have enough food coming in, then you tend to run more on stress hormones. Some people, their systems, you'll actually enjoy this and it can kind of wake you up and make you feel good. Whereas other people, it's a really bad thing. But certainly there are absolutely benefits to intermittent fasting. First of all, a lot of us tend to overeat, especially during the holidays, right? So just not getting an excessive amount of calories in is helpful for a lot of reasons. Another thing is that the longer you go without fat coming into your system, the longer your liver can actually detoxify. As soon as you start throwing a bunch of fat into your system, your liver has to go out of detox mode, right? And so fat fasting is actually a technique also recommended by a medical medium, where when you get up in the morning, you only have stuff with hardly any fat in it, or no fat, essentially, hardly, right? Where you only eat like fruit, for example, in the mornings, and then you wait until lunch to have any kind of fat. So that having that longer window with no fat coming in is helpful for liver healing, liver detoxification, because again, the liver is overburdened by all the fat, having to actually keep up to get all that fat out of the blood, because fat is dangerous to the bloodstream, which is one of the reasons that these trendy high-fat, low-carb diets are so awful for you. Hashtag the dark side of keto if you haven't seen that yet. But basically, long story short, it is helpful for a lot of people. But part of why intermittent fasting is helpful is because it's fat fasting, because you're fasting from everything. But you can get some of the same benefits of intermittent fasting by simply just having longer periods of time where you have zero fat coming into your body, and you're just doing foods that are more like rich in primarily carbohydrates, such as fruit, for example. So very, very low fat. That can also be helpful. But yeah, for some people, it can be great. I would say if you are a person who's doing intermittent fasting and you're finding that maybe it's making your nervous system feel wonky, making you stressed out, it's probably really not for you. Also, women's systems, by and large, not saying this is true of all women, but women's systems, by and large, are more sensitive to this. So intermittent fasting for women, just like low carb for women, more dangerous, more problems usually for women in a lot of cases. And this is especially true of anyone who is prone to anxiety or mood stuff, mood being unstable. For a lot of my clients, I actually have them do the exact opposite of intermittent fasting, which is also really helpful, which is the grazing technique. So the grazing technique is one where you're just nibbling on healthy snacks throughout the day. And the grazing technique right there can really help with having a balanced, healthy nervous system. If you feel like you're all over the place, if you're scattered, if you're anxious. So literally the exact opposite of intermittent fasting, which is grazing. So, but yeah, intermittent fasting certainly can be great. And, so again, it's not about the totally bad, totally evil, whatever. Even these trendy low carb diets have some benefits, obviously, or no one would do them, But yeah, like, got to be careful and make sure it's right for you as an individual. All right, let's see here. Best quality vitamin C since ascorbic acid is made from black mold. Well, Skylar, that's not really quite true. Ascorbic acid is not made from black mold. Ascorbic acid is typically mostly made from glucose that is synthesized from corn. Now, could there be mold growing on that corn? Absolutely, but ascorbic acid is absolutely not made from mold. That's not correct. Citric acid, however, I believe does have some connections to certain kinds of fungi. But if you actually look at how most ascorbic acid is made, it's actually made from corn, and it is synthesized. So yeah, but in general, like with vitamin C, you know, if you want to do a completely natural route, you can do like an organic camu if you want to be a real purist about it. I like the ester C's, I think are good personally. But no, it is not made from black mold. That's not correct. Let's see what else we got here. Shamsul says, why has virology not yet still isolated disease-causing virus? To my knowledge, that is not correct. In general, that is something that does happen in virology. Whether or not that has happened with the one particular one in question, I have heard different stories on that. I have not looked into that well enough to know if that is the case with this particular one or not. I have heard that it has not happened, but I have not done the research to know 100% if that assertion is true. But in general, yes, that is something that is, yes, that has happened. Virology is not inherently a pseudoscience. That is not accurate to say that. Again, that doesn't mean that a lot of people practicing this aren't practicing it in a way that is influenced by money and power and deceptive and fraudulent. Of course, that very well could be the case. All right, what else we got here? All right. That's why I take ashwagandha and feel amazing now. So Noah, you're liking the ashwagandha. Awesome. That's fantastic. Chocolala says, I stopped eating so much fat and sugar. Now I feel so much better. Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's awesome. Fantastic. By the way, something I went into, if you guys haven't watched Dark Side of Keto, check it out at some point. It is a lot of information. I had a stack of studies this high, as a lot of y'all know. But if you want to know more about the reason that a high-fat diet can be destructive to your body, definitely check out the Dark Side of Keto. One of the most mind-blowing things from that I got to say, guys, is this is pretty crazy. They did some research. It's called an isocaloric study where they had people where they had them in what they call a metabolic ward, meaning that these folks actually had every single meal controlled, where they were like, you have to eat exactly this food only, and you have to finish what's on your plate. We have to calculate the exact amount of calories and everything that's going into your body the whole time, right? And what they did is they compared a keto or more of like a low carb, high fat style diet to a more high or medium to higher carb, lower fat style diet, where both diets had the same amount of calories, right? And they measured weight loss and actually found in multiple studies that the low carb diet, if it's had the same number of calories as the higher carb diet, was actually inferior for weight loss. So yeah, that's kind of mind blowing. So how does keto actually work? Based on the evidence, the only mechanism of action that makes any sense with respect to how keto can help people lose weight, which it obviously does, is that it just reduces your appetite. That's literally all it's doing. It has nothing to do with insulin. It's not some fancy other mechanism that alters your metabolism in some way. It's literally just that it makes you eat fewer calories. That's the entire keto thing and all the fancy explanations for it. That's all it's doing. So, you know, and not everything that makes you lose weight is healthy. If you've ever seen anybody who has a solid meth habit, you know that weight loss is not always a good thing. So I'm just saying, just because a diet makes you lose weight does not necessarily mean it's good for you. But yeah, let's see here. Jimmy Jack says, is it most of the cooking oils that's plugging our arteries? No, I'd say that, Jimmy Jack, that's an oversimplification. In general, excessive amounts of fat are absolutely very bad for the cardiovascular system. But so, you know, if we're talking any kind of fat, excessive amounts of it, still not a good thing, right? Because that fat does enter your bloodstream. It does thicken your blood. And whenever you thicken the blood, you actually make it more resistant to flow. You increase the viscosity, the resistance to flow, right? So you make the system pump harder and the blood pressure has to go up, and it's not helpful. But specifically though, when we're looking at different kinds of fats, excessive amounts of saturated fat from animal tissues, and again, I'm saying this as a non-vegan, so I'm not saying that everyone needs to become vegan. I always have to give that disclaimer. I'm not a vegan pundit where I'm saying everybody has to be vegan, but I'm not against vegans either. That diet can be great. But just saying that like excessive amounts of saturated fat from animals is absolutely scientifically proven to be one of the greatest risk factors for cardiovascular disease. That is just well known. One of the reasons that so many of the popular vegan doctors are cardiologists is because vegan diet has an incredible track record when it comes to being helpful for heart health, So yeah, and again, I'm not saying everybody has to become vegan, not one of those kind of people, right? But let's say theoretically, if you had somebody and their number one concern was cardiovascular health and they had a lot of issues in that area, they just really wanted to support that system. If that person either ate no meat at all or a very small amount, that would be one of the most amazing things they could possibly do for their system. Now, of course, there are people who out there will go vegan and they'll say that they don't feel right, and when they put some meat back in, they feel better. And that's also potentially a very real thing. That could be something that could be a genetic thing, could be the way your ancestors lived. We don't have all the answers there, but certainly there is no, as I always say, there's no one size fits all diet that works for everybody. But in general, I think that the vast majority of people should be eating smaller amounts of meat. Whenever I altered my diet to have low meat intake, it was game changing. And now I can skip a whole day, sometimes a couple days where I have no meat at all for a couple days, and I feel fine. I feel actually great. So sometimes your body just really wants you to clean it out. It's good to also take a 1 week break from meat sometimes. Just eat, fruits, vegetables, and, beans and legumes, or, whatever it is that works for you. Just, let your system rest. But what I will say, though, is that in terms of healing, eating meat is not as big of an impediment to healing as eating gluten, dairy, and eggs. Those three hyper-inflammatory, pro-pathogenic foods, gluten, dairy, and eggs, those are all very, very important to reduce or eliminate if you want to heal from all sorts of things. Very, very, very important. Medical Medium, again, also done a lot of great work on that. And yeah, I got to say that those are the big ones, So the meat does not prevent healing the way that, say, for example, eggs do for a lot of these issues. They are really problematic. Now, if you don't have any health problems and you're doing totally fine, then eating gluten, dairy, eggs, meat, whatever, bacon, isn't going to cause as many problems for you. Again, it depends on who you are. Some people can get away with murder. I mean, there's people out there who've been chain smoking, drinking whiskey, eating bacon for 90 years, and they're 94 years old, and they're still smoking Pall Malls, and they're like, I'm fine. They don't even, you know what I mean? And those people exist. So I'm not saying that, every single person has to eat the perfect diet. Obviously, you'll probably, on a spiritual level, feel more clear if you eat pure food, regardless of your health. So, in general, you still want to eat, you don't want to eat Frankenfood and all this crap. But yeah, some of these inflammatory foods, gluten, dairy, eggs, those are the big ones. The eggs, I will tell you guys, by the way, as somebody with a lot of clinical experience, when you get eggs out, what I'll see is, people's health will improve. When they put the eggs back in, I will then see symptoms of pathogenic issues arising. And also specifically, one thing you'll notice for women, if you take eggs out, and I'm talking about any kind of eggs, regardless of how healthy. So this issue has nothing to do with how quality the egg is, even though quality is obviously important. If you're going to eat eggs, clearly get the best ones you can, right? But with something like eggs, it has nothing to do with, what's injected into there or what the chicken ate. This is a fundamental thing that's in all eggs, regardless of quality. They are a giant ball of hormones, chicken hormones, right? That actually can dysregulate our system. And so for women who maybe have irregularities around their cycle, for example, when they get eggs out over time, over a few months, the longer the eggs are out, that can get better. And then I've seen multiple times when they add them back in, it'll get worse again. That is common. Or their acne will come back. That especially happens, with gluten and dairy as well. But yeah, eggs are highly problematic. People think that eggs are the best thing since sliced bread because they've got these different nutrients, the choline, the DHA, the folate, the lutein, blah, 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 albumin, protein, whatever. And yeah, on paper, eggs look great. And I'm not saying that nobody should eat eggs ever because, if you're fairly healthy, you could probably just do whatever you want and it's not a big deal. But for anybody who's really trying to heal and you're trying to, work on your inflammatory pathways and other things like that, you do not want eggs in your diet. You just don't. I promise. That's a really big one. And I used to eat a ton of eggs, and I felt so much better after I found this information and got them out. I kind of, on an intuitive level, I knew that the eggs were bad for me because I could feel my body recoiling when I ate them all the time. But I had this idea in my head that they were really good, right? And all this, people say they're the perfect food. They've got all these great nutrients in them, and so yeah. But my body was actually trying to scream. It was kind of trying to scream at me, like, stop eating this. But I was telling myself, I was stuck in my rational self, my intellect, saying eggs are the perfect food. They have all these great nutrients, blah blah blah. Seraphim, to answer your question, eggs are fuel for viruses, bacteria. They fuel inflammation and they dysregulate your hormones. And again, like I said, this issue has nothing to do with the quality of the eggs. Quality of the eggs is important, but they are so on the scientific level, on scientific end of things, eggs are strongly correlated with the C word that rhymes with Prancer that I try not to talk about too much because it's such a challenging topic. But yes, if you look into the literature, the more eggs people eat, the more commonly they're going to get the C word. And one of the reasons for that is that there's a lot of naturally occurring hormones in eggs. I'm not talking about added hormones. I'm saying what's in there naturally. Even in the healthiest egg on the planet, from the chicken in your backyard, it's a big ball of hormones. And that's why they cause problems for women's hormones. That's why they can cause issues with the cycle. And that's why they also are associated with these C word issues, C word that rhymes with dancer. So yeah, but I would definitely say, look into it, see what you think. I personally felt a lot better, and a lot of my clients, I tend to have them get eggs out of their life. But again, it depends on the person. If somebody's like super healthy, they don't have a lot of issues, maybe it's not necessary to get rid of eggs or bread or dairy or any of this stuff. Maybe they're fine, so it's case by case basis. But in general, you're probably going to lead a happier, healthier life if you don't eat eggs. Yeah. I wouldn't eat duck eggs. I wouldn't eat any of them personally. So Chocolate Mama is asking me a very loaded question. What's your take on veganism? And I'll put it this way. Veganism can actually be one of the best diets ever if it's done correctly, right? Veganism can be wonderful. Now, long-term, it doesn't seem to work for everyone. There are people out there, like I said, so I always have to give this caveat. There are people out there who will go vegan and they'll claim that when they added some meat back in, they felt a lot better, right? And so there can be different reasons for that. There can be placebo reasons. So it could be a belief, an unconscious belief, right? That could be placebo. It could be. We have no way of knowing if it's placebo. Like I always say, guys, you can't fit regular nutritional research into a placebo-controlled model because food is not amenable to putting everything inside of capsules. So when somebody says, I switched to this kind of diet and then I felt way better, we have absolutely no idea how much of that was placebo. And you would be shocked when you look into the science here of what can happen on a placebo level. One of the reasons for that is that our beliefs and our emotions have a direct effect on our gene expression, right? So your genes are switched on and off according to your emotional state, which is regulated by your belief system. So that being said, veganism, in my experience, I was vegan for almost 2 years and it was fantastic. I didn't waste away. If anything, probably gained muscle. I was lean, maybe slightly more muscular. I've never had a problem having muscle personally, so I guess I'm lucky that way. I'm just built that way, But yeah, no, veganism is great. It can do a lot good for you. If you're going to be vegan, though, make sure you're not a junk food vegan because there's a lot of really crappy vegan products out there where you can eat really junky, like all these like pseudo meats that are tons of like GMO soy. Like you got to stay away from that crap. You got to stay away from all these pre-made vegan things that have tons of canola oil in them. Excessive amounts of even nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast can have an MSG-like effect according to some, so it might not be good for the brain in large amounts. So you have to be careful. But yeah, veganism in general can be excellent, and especially for certain types of people. Some of the people who don't do as well on it, it could be that maybe their ancestors, maybe their ancestors' bodies adapted to eating larger amounts of meat. Could be, like we are all different. So science has not figured out, I don't think yet. I don't think we're at the point where we figured out exactly which genotypes, are most susceptible to, which diets yet. People are trying to figure that out. I still think we're at the infancy of that. But I have to respect that there are people who have that experience with this. I went vegan for a long time, and then I had to start eating meat, and I felt much better. So that seems to be real. But is that placebo? I don't know, right? We don't know. When somebody says I went carnivore and I felt so much better, that could be placebo as well. It's really hard to say, But if you're going to be vegan, eat still, just whether you're vegan or not, you need to eat lots of organic fruits and vegetables. That's just got to be a staple in your diet: organic fruits and vegetables. Any diet that doesn't include a large amount of organic fruits and vegetables is just a shitty diet. It doesn't matter if you're vegan, if you're whatever. So unfortunately, that means that any diet that says you can't eat fruit is an inherently shitty diet. It's a shitty diet, period, end of story. If you can't eat fruit on your diet sucks. That's how important fruit is. If I could get up on my high horse, once every single show and tell you guys one thing that's essential: eat more fruit. We have demonized carbohydrates because of this idiotic fear of carbs, which is completely missing the point and ignorant of real nutritional biochemistry for the most part, which is just demonizing all carbs. So, fruit does not give you diabetes. Fruit does not feed candida. That's idiotic. That's not how it works at all. So many people, I've had so many clients who are like, I don't eat fruit anymore because my doctor said it's too high in sugar. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. And you know me, I like to keep it pretty casual. I usually don't overstate my opinions this way. Once in a while, I get a little crunk. This is an area where I'm like, no, that is garbage. I don't care who you are. You need to be able to eat some fruit. This idea that all carbs are bad because they raise your blood sugar and make you more susceptible to diabetes, that is a stupid idea, a very, very stupid idea. And it's not based in scientific fact at all. One of the worst things for your blood sugar, as I talked about in the dark side of keto, one of the worst things for your blood sugar that disables insulin sensitivity, that reduces carbohydrate tolerance, is excessive amounts of fat in the diet. Ample scientific evidence to demonstrate that it is the high amounts of fat that are causing the insulin dysfunction. So yes, you can actually, there are people out there like Cyrus Kambata or Mastering Diabetes who have programs where they're actually helping people reverse their diabetes by getting them on it's medically supervised. So they have physicians there to monitor everything, getting them on a diet that is entirely based on plants. It's a plant-based diet, and it has low amounts of fat and lots of high quality organic fruits in it, huge amounts of carbs, and it actually reduces blood sugar. That's right. On a high carb, low fat diet, as long as they are quality carbs, not sugar, not table sugar and junk like that, and refined wheat, things like that, but high quality whole food carbs, you can reduce your blood sugar that way. That's right. So one of the reasons that overall vegans tend to have lower blood sugar than meat eaters is because the saturated fat in the meat reduces insulin function. So when you go to a hospital and you look at the people who have the diabetes, how many of these people are vegan? Basically zero. Vegan people don't really, doesn't really happen that often. So, and again, not saying everybody needs to be vegan or anything like that, but just know that yes, one of the worst things for your blood sugar is high amounts of fat, especially high amounts of animal origin saturated fat. So if anybody still here believes in this old, outdated, scientifically disproven model that the only thing to worry about is your carb intake for your blood sugar, please abandon that garbage, idiot-based model as an idiotic model, not based in reality, and it's done a lot of damage. Fruit fear, the fear of eating fruit, has done huge amounts of damage. And guess what? Guess what else it's fueling? It's fueling the fertility crisis. You guys know about the fertility crisis. You know what a big deal it is that so many of us can't have children if we don't want to. Obviously, some of you guys are privy to maybe alternative ways of looking at this sort of thing, thinking that there could be perhaps groups out there who are purposely doing this, right, in different ways. And that very well could be, you know. I go into a little bit of that stuff. As far as specifically assigning blame, I let the Shanes and the Alex Joneses and the Jay Dyers handle more of that. But my job is to point out on a technical level, going into the technical aspects of it, how these different things like chemicals, for example, which there's a shitload of them all over the place, chemicals, BPA, the pesticides, the heavy metals, the way that they're messing up our endocrine system and reducing our fertility, right? And also can have a feminizing effect on males, of course, right? And can basically, also make women hyperestrogenic, right? Because a lot of these compounds, they mimic estrogen. They're activating the estrogen system, right? So that's one layer. So just know if you're concerned about fertility, and if you want to make sure that your hormones are in check, that knowing about chemicals and how to prevent chemicals from being in your system, very important. But the next step on top of that is to get some freaking carbs in your system. The low carb thing is one of the things fueling the fertility crisis. Everyone trying to just overdose on fat and being afraid of fruit. Great way to destroy fertility. Yes, really. Super true. There's some physiology here that's helpful to know. Also, I went into this in the dark side of keto. There is a compound released from the brain called gonadotropin releasing hormone. I believe it's either from the pituitary or the hypothalamus. I forgot. And what it does is it basically signals different parts of your body, different glands like ovaries, testes, or whatever, to produce sex hormones, right? And it's especially true in women. GnRH is carbohydrate dependent. So there's a difference, real quick, it's important to know, there's a difference between just low carb and keto. Most people think that keto means low carb. They're not the same thing. Low carb could just mean you're just doing your best to reduce carbs and doing more high fat, high protein. Actual ketogenic, where the carbs are low enough to get you into ketosis, theoretically, is going to be, for most people, a maximum of 50 grams of carbohydrate per day, possibly as low as 30 in some cases, just very, very, very ultra low carb, right? Now, when it comes to the run-of-the-mill, low carb, high fat diets, probably not as awful for women's fertility as an actual ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diets are a great way. If you're a woman and you want to completely trash your hormones, go keto. Perfect way to completely screw up your hormones. Why is that? So again, most important thing to know about keto is that it's simulating starvation. It is a pseudo starvation diet, right? Keto started because they were trying to figure out a way to treat epilepsy. And so they figured out that not eating reduces seizures, right? When you don't eat, it reduces the frequency of seizures. And they thought, well, obviously that's not sustainable. We can't just have people starve to death to treat their epilepsy. So is there a way we could simulate starvation? Well, your body relies on the intake of carbohydrate to perceive whether it's starving or not. So ketosis is something that happens almost exclusively when you're not eating enough food and you need to rob your body of tissues to live, right? So ketosis is something that usually happens while you're basically just starving to death, But if you have very, very low carbohydrates, because your body monitors the amount of carbs coming in to see whether or not you want to go into ketosis and whether or not it's starving. So you're simulating starving. Number one thing to know is the woman's reproductive system. This is less true of men, and there's biological reasons for this, but the woman's reproductive system is very careful. And it's like the logic in a female body is, do we actually have the resources to hold this child and develop it for 9 months and bring it to term because that takes a lot of resources, right? And so the woman's body is scanning the environment saying, is this a safe environment, right? And the signal for if the environment is safe or not is stress hormones. Stress hormones, the higher they are, the lower your fertility. Stress hormones and fertility are completely opposite to each other. And again, much more true for women, because by the nature of Mother Nature, by the logic of Mother Nature, it doesn't. If you're a man, you can still donate sperm, and it doesn't really matter that much. For a woman, you have to actually hold the child for 9 months. So the body is going to be very, 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 very careful with that, right? So anyway, some of these studies that they've done on, for example, younger women who are on keto had like half of the women in the study where their periods disappeared completely. So what does that say? So again, so where else do we see that happen? We see that happen with eating disorders where women aren't eating enough food. If for a woman, if there's not enough sustenance coming in, if the body thinks it's starving, it will stop menstruation 100%, just stop it altogether. So there are various mechanisms by which an ultra low carb ketogenic type diet can massively dysregulate the cycle, dysregulate hormones, reduce fertility. And women aren't being warned about this. One thing I will say is that I've found that the majority of the people out there who are pushing keto are dudes. And I don't think they have the profound appreciation of how much rougher it is on a woman's body than it is on a man's, because we're talking very different physiology here in certain areas, especially with regard to hormones. Women's hormonal system is utterly different from a man's and is more carbohydrate dependent. So that also goes back to intermittent fasting. Like I was saying, intermittent fasting, worse, rougher on women. Keto, much rougher on women. And yeah, so again, just to blow y'all's minds again one more time, I will say that this low carb thing is fueling the fertility epidemic. The lower your carbs, the more you are at risk for being another casualty in the fertility epidemic. And I do wonder if the powers that be, perhaps, who are pushing the chemicals, according to some stories, maybe they're not, but let's just say theoretically that there are powers that be that are pushing us, to have chemicals in our body through different routes that could reduce our fertility. Perhaps some of these people, as the narrative goes, I'm just saying theoretically, maybe they are trying to reduce the world population. If that is a thing, I think that keto and low carb is like their favorite thing, and I think they're pushing it on purpose. I personally think that. I think that this whole explosion of keto and low carb, I think that they know that it reduces fertility, possibly. I'll say just maybe. And I think that it's actually part of that whole strategy. And so if you buy into the whole low carb thing and anti-fruit thing, I think that's actually part of the plan to mess up our endocrine systems, personally. So yeah, fruit. Also, I'll say, for men too, though, fruit is amazing for testosterone. It's, for natural energy levels. Also, here's another little hack. If you want a natural libido tonic, there are certain foods that are really great. One of the top libido tonics for men or women, libido adrenal tonic, not just for, so for fertility, libido, fertility, adrenals, all that is actually organic black grapes. One of the best things you can possibly put in your body for all of that, and an amazing energy booster, black grapes. And make sure you get organic. Do not do conventional grapes at all if you can. But yes, black grapes, especially organic black grapes, amazing to snack on. So yes, if that's the thing, if you're working on fertility and libido and adrenals and that whole system, check out grapes. And yeah, preferably black grapes. If you can't get black, get red. Green's not nearly as good, doesn't have some of the same compounds in it, but yeah, black grapes ideally, amazing for that. Also, celery juice is fantastic for that as well, I will say. Celery juice has a notorious effect on men as well, where it can, notorious in a good way, where it can also assist with the quality of the sperm. So if you are, let's say if you're trying to conceive, and you're looking for some boosters in that area, in addition to, your usual list of adaptogens that you're already taking, perhaps like some of the ones we talk about, check out celery juice, check out black grapes. The celery juice can be very, very helpful for sperm quality. So yeah, if you're if you're a guy and you and your lady are looking to conceive, then that's something to take into account. Just a little pro tip there for you. But yeah, so I don't know if maybe I just red pilled you guys with the whole anti-low carb rant there. And I know I'm in a small group. Still, most people are on this low carb anti-fruit bandwagon, and so I know it's an uphill battle. But I think that it's starting to. I think the tides are finally changing. I think the keto thing has reached its apex, and it's starting to hopefully die down a little bit. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Google says it's made from mold. Skylar, are you referring to vitamin C? Vitamin C is typically made from GMO corn. That is correct. Yes, GMO corn. That is the most common thing. Yeah, not from mold per se. But could that corn have mold on it? Possibly. I don't know. But it's not like people who are making vitamin C and synthesizing. They're like, we're going to buy a bunch of black mold. But maybe that's an alternate way. I know the most common way is corn. Perhaps there are certain kinds of fungi that they're doing that from. But yeah, the most common source of vitamin C is going to be corn, and it's probably the same corn that they make high fructose corn syrup out of. Because remember, to synthesize vitamin C, you first have to synthesize glucose, and to get glucose, you can start with like a high fructose corn syrup, basically. So yeah, you got your crappy GMO corn, you transform that into your corn syrup, and then you transform that into pure glucose, and then you transform that into ascorbic acid or vitamin C, basically. Yeah. That being said, though, what I will tell you guys right here, just to be totally frank, if you're struggling and you got some issues and you don't have a lot of money and you just buy the cheapest vitamin C off the shelf and you take a fair amount of it, it's going to do more good than harm in a lot of cases. It just is. So, and that's true of certain things too. I'll put it this way, even like really crappy cyanocobalamin, that's B12 bonded to cyanide. If you have no money and you can't buy anything else and you really need B12, it's going to cause more good than harm in your body. It really is. So we have to be reasonable and rational about this stuff. But yeah, if you have the money to buy the highest quality stuff, that's great. But it's not like, just in general, everybody, it's important to get away from black and white thinking. There are certain supplements out there that they're so bad that I will tell 100% of my clients, do not take this. Folic acid is one of them. Folic acid is so bad, just don't do it, right? I'd rather you probably take nothing than folic acid. It's so bad, potentially for a lot of people, right? But even like one of the crummier versions of zinc or the crummier versions of B12, they're not great, and I would recommend not taking them and buying something better. But if that's all you have, and you can either have no zinc or zinc oxide is going to be better. It just is, and no, I wouldn't take it. I prefer not to. But again, you have to think rationally and realize that there are gray areas here. And I'm speaking as a practitioner here. If you're talking, I got clients out there. I have a few clients who are pro bono, or there are sliding scale here and there. And there's people out there where I'll do a few clients who are real sick and have very little money, and I will help them out. I'll do a reduced rate or sometimes for free, right? And I know these people have very little money and they need to take a lot of supplements for their health to heal, right? So what do? Well, I'll tell them like, hey, look, here's the deal. Like, I'm going to give you a few of these that at least meet my bare minimum quality standards. They're not going to be the Rolls Royce. They're going to be more like the beat up Toyota that just gets you to work. But a beat up Toyota is better than not being able to get to work at all. You know what I mean? So you do have to be a little bit careful about making these blanket statements like this one certain supplement is always bad, because it really is a spectrum. And you have to say like, again, if you've got some really, really broke people and all they can spend is $50 a month and they need 10 supplements. If you're really, really smart about it and you know how to build a regimen that's cheap, you can give people some stuff that's not the best of the best, but is still good enough to help their health and will still, again, cause more good than harm in their body. So anytime you're thinking in terms of totally black and white, something is 100% bad or good, there's probably some imbalances in your thought process. So just something I like to put out there, and one of the problems right now is that we live in an era where there's a war on subtlety. Like, total war on subtlety. You know what I mean? So by the way, for those of y'all who are just getting here, weren't here earlier, definitely check out the most recent blog post. It is about the metaverse and the matrix, and how the metaverse is the ultimate blue pill. But yeah, like, here's my greater rant here. There's a war on subtlety right here. It's like everybody thinks that it's like, okay, pick a topic. Everyone's like, this thing is either totally good or totally evil. No, that's not how things work, you know? Like, meta, let's take an example of, so this the topic of this most recent blog post, meta right here, right? Meta is super creepy. I can think of very few things that are good about it, right? But does that mean that it's 100% bad? No. Probably one or two small good things will come of it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's good to just check your reasoning, check your thinking, and make sure that you're not falling into the trap of thinking that something is 100% good or bad. That's important. Very important. Yeah. So CHOQ Mama, folic acid. Folic acid is one of my least favorites. It is a totally synthetic form of folate. It does not exist anywhere on planet Earth unless it has been synthesized in a laboratory. It, for a lot of people, behaves like anti-folate. So we have a lot of people who have these genetic mutations where their folate systems do not work normally, and those people respond very badly to folic acid. And in fact, in a lot of people, folic acid will build up in the bloodstream unmetabolized, and you can measure, they call it UMFA, unmetabolized. Oops, I misspelled that. Let's see. Metabolized folic acid, UMFA. And so folic acid, for some folks, decent number of folks potentially, can build up in the bloodstream and can actually cause harm, where it's actually like it's behaving as like a form of anti-folate. For other people, the body can convert it to real folate. So it's not, not 100% bad, but there's a high enough chance that it can be problematic that just make sure you don't get folic acid, get the methylfolate. The real version is called methyl, methyl folate, methylfolate. Methylfolate is the real stuff. That's the stuff that we have in apex glutathione. Methylfolate is a bioidentical form of folate. It's the same kind that actually does occur in real biology. And that's the one and folate, man, I could talk to you guys about folate for a solid 10, 15 minutes just on folate. It's so amazing. Really, really amazing. Folate, by the way, has a huge amount of effects on detoxification as well as on mood. Folate directly impacts neurotransmitter synthesis. So folate's a really big deal. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? Do any good supplements for hair growth? There's a Chinese herb called Fo Tea, also known as Husho Wu. It's a little bit more associated with hair color than growth, but growth is part of it too, I'm told. Hair growth isn't really something I have a lot of attention on, so not something I pay a lot of attention to, but certainly that's one you could try out if you're looking for hair growth. There's biotin and silica. Biotin and silica can also potentially be helpful. From a Chinese medicine standpoint, hair is related to kidneys and adrenals. So if you want, from the perspective of Chinese medicine, if you want healthy hair, a really good thing to do is to basically take care of that system. Take care of your adrenals, take care of your kidneys, and that will serve you well. They say in Chinese medicine that when the kidneys are healthy, then you will go, later ages with thicker hair, things like that. And also your hair won't gray as quickly if you have healthy kidneys/adrenals. All right, let's see what else we got here. Black grape for women, ? Daily for men. Yeah. Black grapes for men and women are awesome for fertility, libido, etc. Yeah. And again, if you're one of those people who's been programmed by books and doctors and people who are, deceived to think that fruit is just sugar and sugar is bad, I would really question that and go out, buy some fruit, eat it, introspect, really see what your body's telling you. A lot of people, when I get them back on fruit again, eating organic fruit, any kind of organic raw plant, it's beyond just the science stuff. It's beyond just the molecules. There's also a life force that's in raw food. I'm not saying everyone should be a raw foodist, but there's a life force that's in raw food that does seem to disappear to some extent when it is cooked. I really do believe that. And I think that also part of the reason that having fruit in your diet is important is that if the fruit is typically consumed raw, whereas vegetables, you have options there. Most fruit, it's weird to cook fruit for the most part, a few exceptions. And so having more raw food in your diet, I think there is probably some kind of somewhat more mysterious connection where there's actual life force energy, actual chi, prana, orgone, whatever you want to call it, that's in that stuff. And of course, I can't prove that scientifically. That's just my intuition. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? Okay. What's good for the kidneys? Chocolala. Yeah, man. So kidneys, yeah. So I mentioned the grapes. That's a great one for kidneys, adrenals. Asparagus is another one that's really great for kidneys, adrenals. Asparagus. Not eating excessive amounts of meat and not eating excessive amount of protein, very important for the kidneys and adrenals. Protein is toxic to the kidneys. Protein produces toxic metabolic products that then the kidneys have to detoxify. Ammonia-like compounds, ammonia-based toxic metabolites from protein. So excessive amounts of protein damage the kidneys. That's why when somebody has chronic kidney failure in Western medicine, they make them go on a reduced protein diet, because that's even known to Western medicine. They even know that. But yeah, so hydration, very important for kidneys, obviously. And there's certainly other foods I could probably think of if I weren't already an hour and 42 minutes into this transmission, but can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now. I'm sure someone will pop in here in a second. Thank you, Chocolala. I appreciate your kind comment. Yeah, very welcome. Glad you guys are digging it. But yeah, I think the number one thing to know for kidneys is, protein. Everybody's obsessed with protein these days. And of course, you need some protein, and there's some advantages to having high protein meals sometimes, but protein has a dark side as well. And you do want to be careful with excessive amounts of protein. Mega dosing on yourself on protein 24/7 is not the way. Definitely not the way. Yeah. All right. So actually, we're pretty far in, and I actually do have something I got to do here in just a second. So we are going to give away prize number 2, and we're going to head out of here, guys. The timer has begun. You have 59 seconds to get your number in. Prize number 2 is going to be slightly different today. We're not going to do shirts for a little bit because we're almost out of shirts. And so it's going to be, prize number 2 is going to be 1 bag of cacao beans and 1 of any CHOQ product is prize number 2. Yes. That is the prize for today. So get your numbers in. You have 28 seconds remaining on the clock. And if you are new, remember you only have 1 entry for this, just FYI. Okay, counting down now. 12 seconds left on the clock here. So if you haven't got your number in, make sure to get it in right now because you are almost out of time. And we are now done. Cool. So, okay, the randomly generated number was 8. We have another very low number today. So who has the lowest number? 17, 19. So I've got a 7, I got a 19, I got a 17. Everything lower than 17? 17. It looks to me as if Noah might be our winner. Does that look like right to you guys? I see 17. I'm showing 17 is the lowest, and the number was 8. So Noah, I do believe, unless I'm missing something, I do believe, Noah, you are the winner of prize number 2. Let me inform our customer service folks here so that they know what the deal is. Number 2, Noah, bag of beans +1 of any CHOQ product. Not doing shirts since we're low. So Noah, congratulations. Email CHOQTOR.com and let him know that you would like your prize number 2, which is 1 CHOQ product of any kind and 1 bag of cacao beans. So pick your product and get her done. All right, guys, it's going to be a little while until I see you again. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking with me. Today was fun. I got to go on some epic rants today. So thanks for sticking with me there. Yes, I hope you guys have an awesome Christmas if you're doing Christmas things. If you're not doing Christmas, then I hope you have an awesome weekend, whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Much love. I will see y'all sometime next week. And until then, stay human. Peace.